because you get to a point where it's like, okay, it doesn't matter how many hours everybody on the team is working, you can't keep up. So you have to look at your current operations and you have to think about everything in terms of scale, right? Okay, this process right here, it worked for 20 properties, but it's starting to get broken at 40. Why is it getting broken? Make that analysis. Figure out what that problem is, what is causing the problem, and then figure out, what we can do to fix it. So like for us, I'll just give an example. When we got to about 50 properties, we started realizing, oh my God, maintenance coordination is something that we really need to focus on and fix. So we looked at our maintenance coordination policies and processes, and we made some changes. And one of those changes was,
This is episode number 79 of the Short-Term Rental Success Stories podcast. Are you an investor that's looking to have your home professionally managed? Go to cohostit.com for more information. Welcome back to Short-Term Rental Success Stories. I'm your host, Julian Sage. This is a show where I talk to hosts about their journeys in starting and growing their short-term rental business. My goal is that you'll be able to walk away with practical information that'll help you become a better host and learn how to scale your business. Like any exceptional host, we all strive for 5-star reviews, so please go on over to iTunes and let us know what you enjoy, as it really helps support the show. If you haven't done so already, go on over to our Facebook group, The Host Nation, to connect with the community. Hey, what is going on, Host Nation? I'm super excited to be back again with you this week. Today I had the honor of speaking with Zac Rushton, co-owner of Great Dwellings, a short-term rental management company based in DC. Great Dwellings has 80 properties under management as well as 10 master leases. In this episode, Zac shares his experience of joining Great Dwellings when they had only 20 properties and they were stuck being able to grow, and how by joining their team, they were able to take on an additional 80 properties in a few short years. If you like my show notes for this episode, go to shorttermsage.com/STR79, or if you'd like my show notes sent directly to your inbox every week, then go to shorttermsage.com/show notes. With all that being said, on to this week's conversation. Hey, welcome back, Host Nation, to another episode of Short-Term Rental Success Stories. In this episode, I have the special honor of speaking with Zac Rushton. Zac, would you please introduce yourself to the Host Nation and let them know who you are and what inspired you to get into short-term rentals?
Absolutely. Thanks, Julian, for having me on. So I'm Zac Rushton. I'm account executive and co-owner with Great Dwellings. We are a short-term rental property management company based out of DC with about 100 units under management in the DMV area, as well as El Segundo in LA County and Playa del Carmen, Mexico.
Very cool. So yeah, if you could kind of give us a backstory about Great Dwellings and their start and how you came into the picture.
Yeah, absolutely. So I joined Great Dwellings in March 2018. We had about 20 properties under management at that point. The company was founded by our CEO, Carl Scarlett, who was doing Airbnbs himself since 2010, and he was doing very well with it. He was making a lot more money than he was doing long-term rentals, and he was having a lot less problems in terms of like tenant relations doing short-term rentals compared to long-term rentals. And he started telling other people about it, and people started hitting him up about it. All right, how do I get into this game? And there was enough interest that he said, man, I should start doing this for them. Let me take the job off their hands and charge something for it and make them good money, the same good money that I'm seeing. And so he started doing it for a handful of friends, and then created the website and got to about 20 properties. And when I came on, he said, man, operationally, it's going really well, but we want to grow some more. So come on as a salesperson as a primary role. Anybody with any experience in startup, small businesses know that you wear a lot of different hats. So I was doing a lot of other things besides sales, still do, but that's the basic story about Great Dwellings and how I came on.
So Great Dwellings started back in 2015, and then for around 2 years, or it was around 2018 that you came on, correct?
That's right.
So for during that time, um, what was the growth like, or what? I mean, around a 3 year period, around 20 properties. Was that the mindset of to really grow this, or was this more just like a hobby? Like, what was kind of the mindset during that period?
Yeah. When I came on, I think there was a lot of interest in growing because at the point where we were at 20 properties when I came on, there was a lot of realization from Carl and the rest of the team at that point that, man, this is scalable. We can copy and paste this and keep on growing, and really we have something here. You know, so that was the main role when I came on, and we vamped up just our sales efforts. And honestly, we were just kind of drowning in leads at that point. So what was really nice when I came on, I had a nice list of leads and people to reach out to, and that really helped us in 2018 grow. I think by the end of 2018, we were at about 50 properties. So we grew 150% just in like that 9 month period.
Wow. So I definitely want to talk about that. And something, unique that we don't have on the show very often is, you had a sales background. If you wouldn't mind kind of sharing your background and your experience and how that played into this company.
Sure. I didn't have a traditional sales background. I didn't have any kind of hospitality background either. The closest thing I had to sales background was having a father who was in sales. So I got to hear him on a lot of sales calls growing up, but I kind of I stayed away from sales and business because I don't know, I was just a stubborn kid, and I'm like, I'm not going to do the same thing that my dad does. So I ended up actually studying biology at UNC Chapel Hill. I worked in a lab for 3 years, and then finally got the guts to quit the job after really hating what I was doing for 3 years, but not knowing what was next. And I traveled for a while after that. And I was in Korea for a year teaching. And then what was my first experience with Airbnb was I started teaching online, and I was staying a lot of Airbnbs in Southeast Asia for the next 6 months. I loved what I was seeing on the guest side of things. I was like, man, this is like a great thing that Airbnb has going on. How can I get on the host side of things? So I started looking up on Google, how can you get into Airbnb short-term rentals without actually owning a property? I actually found Ziona McIntyre on a podcast
Bigger
called,
pockets.
it was actually not on Bigger Pockets. It was Zero to Travel. I can't remember that host's name, but I heard her. She's talking about managing short-term rentals for properties that she owns and didn't own. I reached out to her, said, hey, how would I get into this? I think I'm going to be in DC soon. Do you know anybody there? She connected me with Carl, who is the CEO of Great Dwellings, and he liked the email, and that's how I joined up with him. Uh, Again, I'll go back to just like not having much sales background, but I did do a good amount of like tutoring when I was at the laboratory, and I kind of started my own little tutor business. And really, what I realized about sales, it's all about communication. If you can write a great email and speak to somebody on the phone well, then you can be good at sales. And I think that's what Carl saw, and he was like, all right, just go for it. Here's the leads, you know, you're off to the races.
That is pretty interesting. So no prior like formal experience in like a job, or just kind of you're picking things up as you go. I mean, obviously, I mean you got something right there. Or was it your sales skills, or was it really just people really needed what the offer was and it was an easy sell?
I can tell you, I think it was more the latter. It was the product that we were selling that really spoke for itself. Um, I am, I mean, just on my resume, you've already alluded to it. I've alluded to it. I didn't have a written professional background, and I certainly don't think that I am the expert salesman who can talk you into anything. It was the product that Great Dwellings was offering. So we would get leads who were looking for short-term rentals for a variety of reasons. One was they were already doing short-term rentals. 2018, Airbnb had been around for a while. And so you got a lot of people who were doing it themselves and were just tired of the day-to-day. They were making good money with it. So they didn't want to go away from short-term rentals, but they were so tired of answering the question about how to turn the TV on, and dealing with refund requests for little cleanliness issues, whatever it is, it can kind of wear you down. And so what we're offering there is, hey, we will give you your time back. And a lot of the times, because of our professional tools, revenue management software, our ability to incorporate SEO into the listing, all of our knowledge, a lot of times we're making you just as much money, if not more, while you're not even doing it. So that was one of the types of clients. Another type was they had experience with long-term rentals, and they had just heard about, the success of short-term rentals. So they say, all right, what do you think I could make, at this unit? We provide earnings projections, and that's usually the big deciding factor for those types of leads is, how much more can you make me? And in DC, you can make more. And so that attracted a lot of new clients as well.
Scaling up around 50 properties in around a year. I mean, that's no small feat. Why couldn't Carl been able to scale during that time? Like, it was around 3 years that he was around 20 properties, which is, not dismissing anything with that. But, when you came on, you were able to scale it up to, an additional 50. How come it needed, Carl needed another person to be able to scale that as opposed to being able to manage both?
Man, because of everything that goes into short-term rental management. There is a lot that goes into it. Long-term rental management, not as much in the day-to-day, right? Of course, things still happen that are similar to short-term rental management. You have to coordinate repairs. You have to track bookkeeping, receive payments, pay out owners, and things like that. But a lot less demanding day-to-day. Obviously a lot less turnover in long-term rentals. With short-term rentals, you are, at least for our portfolio, we're turning over every single unit every 3 to 4 days, right? That's our average stay time. And so you are doing cleaning coordination, right? You are doing all the guest communication. You're communicating with the owners as well, giving them updates on their performance and everything, and tracking everything that goes into like the back end, maintaining good reviews, replying to guest reviews, thanking them for their stay. So much went into it that Carl and the rest of the team, it was, my God, with 20 properties, we're super busy. I don't have time to grow right now. We need to bring somebody else on. We're doing well. We got some money to hire somebody. Let's have it be sales, and we'll, focus on still providing a great product.
So around that time, what was the team size like at around 20 properties, and what were the different roles?
Yeah, 20 properties. It was Carl. It was Sharon, who was Carl's first hire, and we have a COO. He's currently our COO, Rob, who was also involved heavily at that time. So it was really just those three who were doing the day-to-day operations things. Although Rob and Carl's already, they have their own 9-to-5s that they still do and we're doing. But it was just the three of them who were boots on the ground. Of course, we had a cleaning team as well. Um, and we used a receptionist service from Guesty. We still use them as our property management software. But we've made a lot of changes and grown a lot since then. But that was the team at the time.
And when you came on, so I guess the first thing was you said Carl had that list, and he basically just handed you a list and said, "Hey, start trying to grow this." Where were these leads coming from, and how was he able to get those?
Yeah, he invested heavily in SEO from the beginning, and so those were pretty much all coming from Google searches. So if you Google Airbnb property management DC, Great Dwellings will, at the time of this podcast, Great Dwellings will come up as number one, and that is where most of those leads came from. As we've grown, we've started to see a lot more leads from referrals as well. Our current clients are happy with the product, and they say, "Hey, my friend's also got a basement unit, and what can you do for them?" And so I'd say about 20% possibly of our current clients have come from referrals, but in the beginning it was SEO.
And was that organic or paid traffic?
That was organic.
Okay. And so investing heavily, how are you investing heavily for the organic traffic? Were you what were you doing to be able to drive traffic to your webpage to be able to rank up on Google?
Yeah, I'm no SEO expert, but I know some of the things that we've done is blog posts have been huge. Creating content and linking back to the website on those really, really helps. That's honestly been, I think, the main focus and the main reason that we're ranked higher up.
Wow. So you've been essentially able to get free traffic just from ranking on Google, and then everything else has kind of come from just referrals.
Yeah, I believe so. And if reviews also play an impact into the SEO and Google search results, then that's definitely helped as well. Again, I'm no expert, but our reviews are great. So Google, I think if it's not 5.0, it's close to that. And then Yelp has been really great as well. And when I get calls from new leads, I think at least 50% of them will mention our reviews these days. So I'm not actually sure if do reviews help with Google search results?
Yeah, definitely having the the business account set up. I haven't looked you guys up, but if I type it in, I'm sure that maybe you guys have like a Greater Dwellings, and then you got your 5 stars or whatever on the side.
Yep. Google, Yelp, Facebook, they all looked good. So
Awesome.
that's been huge for us.
So you already had that set up, and you were given this list. How are you talking to prospects when you didn't really maybe have like that formal sales experience? What were maybe some of the things that you've had to learn, or the objections, or how you overcame, and what that was like when you first started?
Yeah. This could be a lengthy answer because there was a lot to learn and a lot of muscle memory that I've had to develop since then, since the beginning, like when I joined. I'd say still most importantly for people, I believe, is those projections, like that financial bottom line. Am I going to make more money than long-term rentals, or if I'm going to, or if I'm doing it as a short-term rental myself, how much would I have to give up to not have to do it myself? It's still probably number one, but there are definitely some other positives of short-term rentals that I'll talk about with clients. A lot of them have issues in the past with long-term tenants. So bad wear and tear on the property. Tenants aren't caring for the property like they should be, and the owner, a lot of the time, or property manager, doesn't get to see the property until 12 months after that tenant moves in. So there's a lot of time there where you don't get to see the property and know if you need to do any repairs. You're really trusting the tenant a lot of the time. With short-term rentals, obviously, you get to see the place every 3 to 4 days. Another thing is there's at times objections to the regulations. People want to know, or objections to short-term rentals because of regulations. They want to know where the law stands. And in DC, it's been interesting. There's definitely been some lobbying efforts against short-term rentals. I think what you're seeing there is a lot of lobbying by the hotel industry. There's some powerful people who don't want to see short-term rentals take money out of their pocket. But I think short-term rentals, if done very well in a professional manner, that they are such a good thing for the city with the tax benefits that are coming from them. The DC gets 14.95% of every single transaction. There's a lot of tax revenue that's coming from it. And also for travelers who want to come to the nation's capital. I mean, it's huge. You can have your own space, and in COVID era, you don't have shared HVAC systems and elevators that you need to share with people. So I think that's been a great thing, just for the city, DC as a travel destination. But before I keep on going, I'll just say, like, back to your original question, regulations are definitely a thing that people have concerns about. Right now, there's no short-term rental license that exists in DC. So it's still a business as usual thing.
How do you work with prospects or investor clients that, when in the case of, like, let's say DC, where there aren't any, legal requirements aside from paying the taxes, how do you talk to someone where it's like they have to invest the money into the furniture or into the property, and they might want to work with you guys, but when there's already talk or there's already word and things in motion that could, negatively affect someone's operations, like in the case of like Oxon Hill, Maryland, where, they changed the regulations to be only 6 months in primary residence. How do you work with that in the case of like when someone's approaching you and you're not too sure, like, should you work with them? How do you communicate that?
Absolutely. Well, first thing, you have to just be honest, of course. You have to lay out the information to them and tell them, hey, this is what has passed, but this is the current situation. Yes, there is a short-term rental bill that was passed in 2018. There's been no enforcement of it. There hasn't even been an application that's been created. So that's the current situation that we're in. And then you try to find out more information about the zoning as well. So, like, for example, DC, I'm going to continue using it as an example. DC zoning now allows short-term rentals in residential areas, right? But that application still doesn't exist. So it's like very much a gray area. But these are things that you have to tell investor clients. Now, if a property isn't zoned residentially, if it's multi-use, then we don't have the restrictions on short-term rentals. So in summary, you have to give those clients the information at hand, tell them about the current situation, and then find out more information about that property to see, what types of things we need to do to go forward.
For a lot of property managers that are listening to this show that are, looking to grow, but they don't maybe have the time or the capability to really focus on that, what was that, if you can give the details, kind of what was your situation when you joined Greater Dwellings? Like, were you commission only? Were you salary? How can someone that is looking to grow be able to afford or work with a salesperson to help scale?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was majorly commission based, and I think that's common for sales positions in any industry. And that helped Great Dwellings afford to bring on a salesperson. And so I would encourage that um, to other property management companies who are looking to grow. You have to sell yourself, and you need to get that applicant to drink the Kool-Aid, basically, of your company. So you want to tell them about the culture of the company that you've built. Of course, you want to talk about the product. You want that potential salesperson or any kind of employee to really embrace, what it is you're selling. And you have to sell that person on how much growth, that you expect and that you want. If you want to if you're at 20 properties and you want to stay under 30, well, that new salesperson sees that, all right, there's a low ceiling for what I can get. But if you are looking to get to 500 properties in the next 2 or 3 years, well, there's dollar signs in that person's eyes.
And what does that, for maybe those that are listening to the show that don't know anything about, like, a lot of people listen, or they get a property, they start growing this, they're not thinking like really maybe business, or they don't have that experience. How would you even know like what to pay a salesperson for commission? Like, are you giving up a portion of your company? Like, how does that even work?
Yeah. So it's definitely going to depend case by case, but in order to try to get some idea of what you should pay, I definitely just recommend, like anything else these days, just Googling it. Google exactly that. How much should I pay a salesperson, small business, right? There's plenty of information out there that can really help you out, and you can get advice and even post on message boards for specific advice. On top of that, I would really recommend just knowing your bookkeeping super well. Know your finances. So hire a bookkeeper from day one. If you're 2 years into it, you don't have a bookkeeper, I mean, that's fine, but I would just really recommend getting one ASAP. Get an accountant to create profit and loss statements for you, get cash flow reports, get to know your numbers, because that is really going to determine what you're able to offer now and in the future. If you're not comfortable, even, you don't even know where to start with getting a bookkeeper, you can reach out to accountants or bookkeepers on any of those contracting sites.
QuickBooks or something,
Upwork, yes, that's what I was thinking. We found our receptionist on Upwork. We found our bookkeeper on Upwork. I definitely recommend looking there, and then also get to know it yourself a little bit, so what type of work you need that bookkeeper to do. Go on sites like Coursera, any of those free online courses. There's tons of stuff for like small business owners to learn bookkeeping and accounting.
But for a salesperson that's joining, when the short-term rentals, if a salesperson is joining that team, or how would you structure that if you're planning to join the team long term? Is that like you doing like a commission, or do you say like is that like based off the revenue that the property generates? Like how do you as a person that's maybe wanting to join a property management team or hire someone, what are the different types of situations that you've seen or that you came up with?
Yeah, so Great Dwellings is mainly a revenue share business model. So management fee based, right? We charge 25% of the accommodation fare. And then, for example, my commission is based on that 25%, right? So it's not taken out of the total accommodation fare, it's taken out of Great Dwellings take. So that is important, I think, when it is a business model for us, and it's even more important if it is an arbitrage model. If you are a master lease model, which plenty of property managers, especially for short-term rentals, do. The reason it becomes so important for businesses that like have that model as their backbone is you can't give commissions on the accommodation fare because you're going to be paying out way too much. You have to base it on the profit, on that delta between what you paid for the monthly rent and what the property brought in.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And yeah, because you could be paying a salesperson a whole lot of money for what the property is able to bring in, and then come at the end of the month when you have to pay for the rent, pay for those things. Now you got to pay your salesperson. It's like crap. Like we're going under because we have to pay Zach for this property. But okay, so you brought up a pretty interesting thing. What role does a salesperson have when picking up master lease units? And Great Dwellings, for those of you that are listening, just to recap, you guys have around 80 managed, 10 master lease, and 5 long-term rentals. How do the master lease is something that you kind of started implementing when you joined the team?
Yeah, we didn't have master leases when I first joined. We had our first opportunity with the master lease, I think a year into my tenure with Great Dwellings, and it has to be a great fit. Do not force it. It's like, don't fall in love with the property. They say the same thing with like real estate, don't fall in love with the house. Like make your decisions primarily on financial projections and be very conservative with them. Otherwise, you can really get yourself in trouble. You over leverage yourself, whatever it is. Yes, when you're making projections, it's very like alluring to like look at those aggressive projections. Don't do it. Think of like a worst case scenario. COVID is a perfect example. Nobody saw this coming, and we've seen over leveraged short-term rental property management companies actually go under because they had a lot of master leases and they couldn't pay the bills.
How is that when you are looking to acquire that? Is that like part of your regular like sales opportunity? Is you looking to find master lease units, or is that just something that's when an opportunity presents, it just kind of falls into place?
Yeah, it really depends on how many inbound leads that we're getting. If we're swamped with inbound leads, then I'm probably looking less at outbound master lease calls. But yes, if inbound leads start slowing down, then I'm definitely looking at opportunities to have a master lease agreement with, a single family homeowner or multifamily building owner. So when I am doing those outbound calls, I'm trying to find as much information about the property as possible before I even get on the line. I want to know, what is the long-term rental rent going to be at this place? If you can find, this is a little bit tougher to find, but if you can find vacancy rates or whatever it is for that property, that allows you to have a lot more information in order to be able to negotiate. What you can offer. You're going to know if you're probably offering too much, or too little, that the guy's going to laugh you out of the room or whatever. So try to get as much information on what that property would get as a long-term rental before you negotiate those master leases.
Hey, this is Julian, and I wanted to be able to give you our newest book, Airbnb Secrets Revealed, How to Build a Fortune on Airbnb Without Owning Property. In this book, we talk about the concepts of rental arbitrage investing, as well as co-hosting, and how you can build a business leveraging other people's properties. This book is perfect for the new short-term rental investor, and it's something that I wish that I had when I first started, as it would have saved me a lot of trouble and helped me to understand how to be able to leverage the power of short-term rental investing in your own real estate portfolio. If you'd like to get our newest book completely for free, go to shorttermsage.com/free book. Now, back to the show. What did it look like? You're taking a company that was from 20 to, adding on 50 properties. The way that they maybe they scaled those 20 properties up over the course of a few years. What did it look like from an operational standpoint, not just from a sales standpoint, but from operationally taking on 50 new properties or, potentially 50 new clients, if those are all single families? How did you how were you able to onboard that many and not break the company essentially?
Yeah, yeah. So, well, I'll tell you that everybody busts their butt. So that's universal with any startup company or small business. You have got to bust your ass. Sorry if this is a family show, but uh, you have to have everyone buying in, and they've got to hustle. They've got to bleed, sweat, cry, to get you to that next level. So I'll just say this is a little side point. Like when you are making your new hires as you're growing, that's got to be super important. I would so much rather have someone with less skills on paper, but who I can tell has just like an amazing work ethic and is a workhorse. So much rather have that hire than somebody who is lazier, isn't going to be putting as much time into the company, but have those skills on paper. Because you get to a point where it's like, okay, it doesn't matter how many hours everybody on the team is working, you can't keep up. So you have to look at your current operations, and you have to think about everything in terms of scale, right? Okay, this process right here, it worked for 20 properties, but it's starting to get broken at 40. Why is it getting broken? Make that analysis. Figure out what that problem is, what is causing the problem, and then figure out, what we can do to fix it. Changing operations is very difficult. It takes a lot of time and investment to do so, but it's so worth it for solving your problems and setting yourself up for growth in the future. So, like for us, I'll just give an example. When we got to about 50 properties, we started realizing, oh my God, maintenance coordination is something that we really need to focus on and fix. Proper maintenance is like the backbone of property management in general, I think, and especially for short-term rentals. If your properties aren't well maintained, a guest isn't going to be happy when they come in. That's going to lead to bad reviews or refunds, which then directly correlates to the owner being unhappy because it's affecting their bottom line. An owner who sees maintenance issues is also not going to be happy. This is my property. This is something that I want to be taken care of, and I'm paying a property management company to do it. You do not want them to walk into a home and say, why was that not fixed? So we looked at our maintenance coordination policies and processes, and we made some changes. And one of those changes was we implemented software called Breezeway. Looks like you're familiar with it. And it was great for us. It's basically a maintenance coordination system specific for short-term rentals. And they implement, I think there's three areas that they have in the system. It's cleaning, maintenance, and inspection. And you can assign tasks to your cleaners, you assign tasks to your maintenance personnel, assign tasks to the operations team that's doing inspections. You get to see the entire schedule for your entire portfolio. It's integrated with your PMS, your property management system, and it makes life a lot easier. It takes a lot of investment initially of time and information to get it there, but oh my God, again, it helped us a lot.
And what was that like as far as just like going to properties, onboarding the clients into your PMS? What did that look like? Maybe when people are like, trying to scale their properties or scale their portfolio, like what are you doing? Are you just trying to hire more people, or to go out to the properties? Like how do you balance that?
Absolutely. And it's a question that we're still trying to answer, but currently it works well for us. What we use a lot of software. So we do use a CRM for sales. And that helps a lot, just organizing, where anyone is in the deal pipeline. And especially when you're a smaller business, everything just needs to be so organized. You're doing a million different things. Sales is no different. You need to know when you need to follow up with these different leads that are coming in. Now, once they become clients, what we did is we have an onboarding project template in Asana. Actually, Asana is a task management, project management tool, and every single person on our team has a profile on Asana. And for any property, you have this many like onboarding tasks, right? Any property, it doesn't matter. You've got to do all these like onboarding tasks, such as for us, creating a house binder, right? For the guests. You need to have 3 copies of keys for every single property. You get it. There's the list that goes on. And different members of our team are responsible for each of those tasks. So when a property is onboarded, when a lead becomes a client, that template is used, and everybody has their tasks and their due dates to onboard that property.
And was that something that you already had set up around that 20 properties, or was that something that you kind of realized we need something like this?
No, we did not have it when I first came on, and you learn quickly. You're forced to learn when problems come up. You can either deal with that problem individually, right, and then that problem is going to happen again, or you put the time and effort into figuring out, what was wrong with the process, why did that problem even occur, and you try to implement something to solve it. So we were definitely not perfect. I think we solved a lot of problems the former way that I said, by just dealing with it on an individual basis. But then you learn enough that, yeah, you got to make some changes. And Asana was one of those things.
What did the company look like at around that 20 mark when you joined to where it is now? Like how is it very different, or is it just more streamlined? Like if you could describe like what it was like then and what it's like now.
So much more streamlined, I'll say. One of the best decisions that we ever made was actually hiring a receptionist team slash admin team. So we found our receptionist on our head receptionist on Upwork, and tested her out. She was excellent, and what she ended up doing was, I think, reaching out to us and saying, hey, I've got other people that I know in the Philippines who I think would be great at this. And so what she did was grow her team along with Great Dwellings. As Great Dwellings started to need more virtual assistants, more administrators, more receptionists, as guest communication increased with our portfolio increasing, she got to grow her team. So that was really awesome. The same thing actually happened with our cleaning teams. I mean, they loved us because as we grew, they got to grow as well. So that, basically, in summary, one of the most, like, the best decisions we made for streamlining processes was getting that administrative team to be able to have 24/7 guest communication, and then also do administrative tasks while we're sleeping. In the Philippines, they can get stuff done, so we wake up in the morning to tasks that we wouldn't have gotten to.
Like how does that communication work with a receptionist team for those that are interested in like working with someone from the Philippines or with like a VA? How do you balance that? Because you already said that you have like an ops person in the US. You do the sales, so you all kind of already have your roles. How do you work that with a virtual team?
Yeah, so I think, I mean, most importantly is you got to find a good one in the beginning. So when we found our head receptionist, it was so obvious that she was such a hustler, and that she had a knack and she had an understanding, like an instinct for how to communicate hospitably, right, with guests. So if you can find that diamond in the rough, that unicorn, then you're going to probably be able to trust any other hires that they make, right? Because if they're doing well and they understand at the beginning, then they're going to know, you know, who is also going to understand it. And so we give her a lot of autonomy for who she hires and what her needs are, as we grow. It's like yeah, everybody's I think heard this. Like you can't invest in ideas, or you're not supposed to invest in ideas. You're supposed to invest in people. And that's important when you're implementing any new processes. Like you can you can add as much software as you want into your business processes, but ultimately what it comes down to is the people who are using that software.
At which point were all of these properties, when you decided to scale up, you were at around 70? Was that all within the DC DMV area?
Yeah, when so for the first year it was all in DMV area. I think in early 2019, we added 5 units to portfolio, in El Segundo in LA County. It was actually Carl, CEO. He was traveling in LA for business for his 9 to 5, and he stayed at this amazing Airbnb. He got to meet the host. Her name's Sophia, and she has her tag and her Instagram are ArtBnB. But she had 5 units out there, but she was saying, "My God, I'm starting to not have time to do all the things that involve. I need somebody to help me out remotely." And so we talked to her a few different times, and we got along really well. What she cared about was what we cared about, and we still have Sophia as a client. So that actually just, I guess, happened serendipitously. We weren't focusing on LA, but it happened, and now we actually want to grow in LA more. I would definitely recommend for anyone starting out, definitely grow in your own neighborhood, become hyper focused in your area, your city, first. But then it is pretty cool to be able to say you're a bi-coastal organization.
And you also picked up some units in Mexico as well, you said?
We did.
What is that like, and how does that come about?
Yeah, that happened from an organic referral as well. Actually, Sophia was involved in that. She had a friend who was in Mexico, and she had a relationship with a building owner in Playa del Carmen. He was looking to make some changes and go in a different direction, and so that was actually one of our master leases that we did. It was our second master lease, and it was on a 12-unit building down in Playa del Carmen.
Wow, so 12 units, a master lease in Mexico, but you're in DC. How do you even work around that? Like, how do you, like, if for people that are interested in investing, in Mexico, or just overseas, like, how do you even go about that with like the taxes, or with like finding the right people, building out the properties? Because I assume that you had to furnish them.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely leave the taxes to our accountant. If you want to have him on the show, go for it, because I can't tell you about it. But everything else was a lot of work. The furnishings, I was not directly involved in, but there's obviously a lot of stuff that goes into customs and everything. You got to do a lot of research for how you get things down there. But what really helped, and maybe Great Dwellings is just the luckiest company in the world, but what we actually found our current lead operations employee, in Playa del Carmen, because he was a tenant at the same building that we signed the master lease on. And what happened is we got to talking with him, and he studied hospitality. And he had a background. He worked for a hotel in Playa del Carmen for 1 or 2 years. And we're like, hey, this is what we are doing. we would love for you to be a part of it. And the deal got made, and he's been running that operation for about the past year, and it's been great. We're actually looking at possibly expanding the venture. So again, it's like we ran into Adrian in this case, who runs the property down there. But it's, you talk to enough people, and you'll realize who is a good fit and who isn't. It's like, do your due diligence with figuring out, who you want to bring on the team, and it'll work out.
I'm curious because it seems like kind of the running theme with this conversation is like people that maybe don't necessarily have like all of the experience or the skills, but it very is a people focus. Was Carl's other hire, the operations? Did they have previous experience in this as well, or was this more just like a personal relationship?
They didn't have experience with it either. It was Carl was always, he loved hospitality, as a guest, as a traveler, and so he had that passion for it, and that's where Great Dwellings came about. The co-founder Rob, current COO, he enjoyed hospitality as well, and enjoyed working with Carl, and again saw something in the product and service that we were offering, so that came about that way. It's been a really great thing about our team is, like you said, it's very people focused instead of resume or skill
What what
based.
what what do you see? I mean, short-term rentals, like you said, you're ranking on top of Google. There's being in the DC area. I mean, there's not a lot of other short-term rental property managers out there, but there are still other companies, and people, as they become more aware of short-term rentals, they're definitely looking for the right company and maybe the right price point. How have you guys seen the growth or the development since you joined with how people are, looking for property managers? Are people looking price shopping? Is that even an option for people? Like, what is the mindset with how your prospects are communicating with you and what they're looking for?
Yeah, absolutely. So price is definitely a factor, absolutely. But I think everybody's heard, like, you get what you pay for. Like, one thing that I hear all the time from leads, current clients who had a previous property manager, is their property manager for short-term rentals was good to a certain point, and then they noticed that that property manager was growing their own thing, and so quality declined. So that's something that I think, well, homeowners should definitely be aware of. You can find property managers for short-term rentals on Craigslist or whatever it is, who will hustle, and they put a lot of effort into your property. But then you get to a point between 5 and 10 properties probably where it's just too much to do yourself, and you have to grow, you have to implement systems, and that is really, really difficult. It's hard to like get past that point. So Great Dwellings, we've got the infrastructure right now in place, the processes, so much time and work went into that to put us in a position to scale and to be able to handle, another 20 properties. If they came on this week, we'd be able to do that. And then my advice to any property manager who is that Craigslist, like hustler, great work ethic, who wants to get to that next level, again, just think about scalability. Think about this process that I have right now for 5 properties. Would it work for 50? Would it work for 500?
Do you think that, or have you noticed that people are really price sensitive? And I mean, especially right now with like COVID, have the people that you've been talking to like looking to shop around for price? Like, what is that even an option for people?
Hmm. They are price sensitive, but what we are able to do now is we are able to give earnings projections to client leads that are based on our historical revenue. So we are looking at the market data, of course, but we have 10,000, 11,000 reservations that we can look at and we can say, hey, this home that we currently manage is also a 2-bedroom. It's also in the same neighborhood as you. And this is what it made last year. There is no reason that it wouldn't do the same, that your property wouldn't do the same. So in the beginning, yes, you really have to rely on market data, but once you start to get historical numbers, historical data, then that is what you can show to that lead, to that property owner. And if the numbers are good, they still have to be good, right? You still have to do your job very well, and you had to have done your job very well. But you can show them, hey, even though we take 25% and this property management company only takes 15%, look, we will still make more than that company who charges less.
Do you think, and there's companies out there, one of them, probably a lot of people have heard is like Evolve, and they're constantly marketing 10 or 15% management. Do you see that property management companies, as the systems become more systematized, and a lot of people that listen to the show, they are trying to get to that point where it's not taking as much work. A lot of people that listen to the show also say, I could potentially do this myself. Do you think that the 25% or 30% is going to be a sustainable thing, or that as it becomes more systems process oriented, that that charging a 20 or 30% is not going to be sustainable, that people are just going to be shopping for the bottom dollar?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it definitely depends, one, on how much involvement the property owner wants to have, because you brought up Evolve. I believe Evolve, they are really on the marketing side of things and getting you bookings, but I believe once the guest checks in, then mid-stay communication is still on the property owner. A lot our clients don't want that. They want Great Dwellings to handle everything, right? They don't want to touch it. They just want to see the money coming in. So Evolve wouldn't even be an option for them. If you are a property owner and you want to still be majorly involved in the day-to-day, the guest communication, using your own cleaner, hey, Great Dwellings might not be for you currently. We might offer a service in the future that is less involved and offers less services, but we want the client who doesn't want to do any work. So that's what we're selling. I think other companies are selling something different.
Even with everything right now, like, how has your business been impacted, and is there still a demand for property managers even amidst COVID in the DC area, or even other areas, you believe?
Man, I'm going to answer that in two parts. So, one, we're going towards multifamily buildings a lot more. That's what we're interested in. That's how we see that we can grow, and we can definitely offer a lot to those property owners, especially now that COVID has hit, because at least in the DC market, a lot of luxury apartment buildings are seeing very high vacancy rates, that, like, compared to the past decade. And so there's not revenue coming in, right? But with short-term rentals, once the place is guest ready, you put the listing up, revenue comes in immediately, right? So that's a luring part of short-term rentals to these property owners. And then also, 1-bedroom studios are harder to rent right now. You've got people who are looking to cut down on costs, and so they're looking to move in with a roommate where maybe normally they would have stayed in the studio. And so we want to manage those type of units. If these property owners are having trouble filling those spaces, hey, come to us. Allow us to bring in immediate revenue for the places that you are having trouble leasing.
And are you talking from a master lease perspective, or a co-host management perspective?
We're open to both. Whatever fits in that situation, then we would be open to it. We got experience with both.
Okay. And what would you do differently if you had to start from scratch?
Wow. Um, if I had to start from scratch, all right, CRM is huge. Started from day one. Hire a bookkeeper from day one. Hire receptionists from day one. That actually, if you don't have the revenue to do it, obviously that's not possible from day one. But all right, whatever it is, day 60, day 90, the earliest that you can do it because it'll make your life a lot easier. It will put you in a much better position to grow and yeah, alleviate pains that are farther down the line. So I would say those three things are probably the most important. CRM can probably be bundled with a few of the other things I'm talking about, project management software. Get processes in place from day one. It takes more time, but oh my God, it will save you so much work in the end.
And where do you see short-term rentals going in the future?
I see them sticking around, and I see them growing. Actually, hotel industry is in a rut right now. I was hearing yesterday that um, occupancy rates are between 10 and 20% for hotels, at least in the Mid Atlantic area, and so short term rentals are filling that space. We have seen we have seen for the rest of 2020 the same performance that we saw for these dates for the rest of 2019. So, in other words, um, October to December is pacing at the same rate in 2020 that it was pacing at in 2019. If you asked me that in April, May, when COVID was really like having a huge impact on short-term rental industry, I would have said there's no way that's going to happen. We're bouncing back in a big way, and the trajectories on the right path that I think short-term rentals are going to be bigger than ever.
And when you say matching the same pace from like occupancy and ADR, or just occupancy?
So it is I think it is occupancy, but RevPAR as well, which goes hand in hand with just how much revenue is coming in. Now that is for our portfolio, and what I saw that was for the Mid Atlantic region. I saw that Southeast region of the U.S. is pacing at 40% higher than it was in 2019, and then there's other parts of the country are have some different results, but it's bright. I think the future is bright.
And what question would you have for maybe another management company that's at a similar place as you, or and maybe doing things a little bit better, or a company that's at that next scale where you're trying to go? If you could ask them any questions, what would that be?
Wow, a good question about questions. Um, what would I ask them? I would say, how did you get from 100 to 500 properties? What was the difference there? What did you have to implement to make that next jump? Because it's a selfish question, but that's what Great Dwellings is trying to do, and I think we will get there. But hey, any of those companies that are listening, please reach out to me and give me some of that advice.
Yeah, we'll get them on the podcast next. And but what specifically about the scaling aspect? Like, where do you see in your business that you're looking at saying like how is that even possible to get to that size?
On the ground support. So basically, the people who we need to run around and do need to be in the property, right? How do you find good people like that, and how do you afford to have people like that? Because depending on the city, how big the city is, you got to cover a lot of ground, and you have to visit a lot of properties. How do you afford to keep on throwing people at this problem if you're a small company? You can't just continue to pay another salary and another salary, another salary. That's what we want to figure out. All those tasks that require a physical person at the property. How do you afford that?
So you guys don't currently have a runner or like a person that inspects the properties, or you already have that?
We definitely do. We definitely do. But it's how do you make that scalable with your growth? Because those people are good people are expensive, right? And so I think you have to hire in a very smart way, or if you have to do it in a different way. So that's something that we are definitely going to be looking at as we grow.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Zac, for taking the time to share your experience. What's the best way if anybody wants to be able to reach out, ask you more questions, or find out more about Great Dwellings?
Yeah, absolutely. Greatdwellings.com is our website for multifamily units, and for our Playa del Carmen property, you can go to duel.co, DEWL.co. That is a branch of Great Dwellings that we are developing for more luxury properties and multifamily housing. And then you can reach out to me at Zac@greatdwellings.com as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Zac, for taking the time. Until next time, Host Nation, keep on hosting.
Appreciate it, Julian. Bye-bye.
Hope you hosts benefited from the show. If you found value, please go on over to iTunes, leave us a review, and let us know what you enjoy about the show. If you'd like to talk to hosts that have been featured in these episodes as well as the community, go on over to our Facebook group, The Host Nation.